Hey all, no respawns here, hope you're having a grand week. So this was a requested video because a few people are struggling with finding decent outposts and exactly how to get the rare resources, because typically with a lot of the outpost system in Starfield, they don't really explain it very well and it can be a little bit confusing. So hopefully this video helps a few of you. So let's just jump straight into it. So I'm in the Sol system, and specifically I'm settled, as in I'm currently occupying the Sol system, and that's something that's very important straight off the bat. So when I'm inside a system, I can always see what's on the planets, even if I haven't actually scanned them yet. So for example, like, I don't believe I've scanned this one. So I see scan unavailable, but I can see that it has helium-3 and iron, right? And the reason why that's important is if, for example, say I was having a butcher's Alpha Centauri over here, and I wanted to, I think this one I haven't scanned level. There we go, perfect. See, I haven't scanned level, so I can't actually see what's on it when I'm in another system, but if I've already scanned it and then not in the system, I can actually, I guess, retrieve my scans. So just something to bear in mind if you're getting confused why sometimes you can't see resources. Now I'm going to stay here for a sec because I can demonstrate something else. So when you're on a planet, if I show resources, you'll get, press it again, David. Thank you for that, a bit overeager there. So you'll see all resources available, but only the most common resource in that area. So this goes from the other thing. So from left to right, let's move it that way. From left to right is the rarity, with the right with the little colours indicating how rare they are. So for this one, it's blue, chlorosilines. I can't even say that goddamn word. Mars has the Sol system has some better examples and easier to pronounce words. So let's just quickly check. So for example, I'm settled at Pluto right now. Settled, parked outside, and Pluto has titanium and tungsten, and you can see tungsten is blue. This actually follows the rarity color system of the weapons as well. So titanium is rare, tungsten is rare, titanium is epic, and I believe Venus has some legendary, yeah it is, which is dysporium, and that's legendary as in it has the pips as well, but it also color coded. So what you want to do is whenever you're settling somewhere, you want to make sure at least one of those rare resources, ideally something you need. For example, this one has tungsten and titanium, which is glorious. So ideally if I can find somewhere with both tungsten and titanium, but if I can find one of the other, that's ideal. A lot of people, I think, are settling somewhere and going, oh, it's got, for example, if I go back up to Pluto again, it's got, I've got lead and water, that'll do, right? You can actually find the resources to mine. That's another thing that may not have been immediately obvious when you were exploring the planets, because initially, and I think a lot of people made this mistake, is I assumed these were the only mineable resource, and these resources here you could only mine manually, as in with your cutter, because we're scanning around, you find those little deposits. No, you can have full extractors for these. So another thing to look out for, and I'm going to use Alpha Centauri as this because it actually has a planet which I can use as an example, so Jemison, is planets will have multiple biomes. So for example, the Argon at the top is in the frozen mountains, the water is in the coniferous forest, and I think, you can click ocean as well, and I think, yeah, so the lead is in the mountains. These will have completely different environments and different resources and different abundance of different kinds of resources. For example, so the frozen areas will often have, for example, this one doesn't have it, I believe. Okay, it doesn't, but for example, neon. Neon and water seem to love the frozen poles, whereas helium-3 tends to exist in kind of the more middling, kind of the savanna, the mountainous, and the crater areas. So just something to bear in mind, that just because you've kind of landed there doesn't mean it's going to be the same in terms of rare resources possibility of, say, going there. So right, what in terms of resources are you looking out for? So they're obviously, as you've probably scrolled through the building, there are quite a lot of resources you need, but the main ones that will take up, this is a number I'm pulling out of my arse, but ostensibly it does feel like around 80%, will be iron and aluminium, as the two main important ones. Then you've got copper and beryllium. Copper especially, well, copper and beryllium for your electronics and I think copper especially for your solar paneling, and then tungsten and titanium. In terms of harvestable resources, those are probably the ones who'll be using the most. Outside of that, things like structural material and some unique stuff, but generally speaking, if you can kind of nail those ones down, you'll be pretty solid. If you are using an outpost to send resources to another outpost, helium-3 is a must. And I think, for example, Callisto has helium-3 and iron in it. Just as a pro tip, if you are using it for shipping, always land on the helium-3 area. So that gets to my another point. Just because, for example, this area has helium-3, it doesn't mean it just has helium-3. And I mean, not just, it might have rare, obviously this one doesn't have rare resources, but there's a very, very good chance that will also have iron there as well. It's just that helium-3 will be the most abundant resource. I see a lot of people going, I'm going to settle on the edge so I can get a chance at getting both. Obviously, sure, why not? And it is sometimes quite interesting when you settle between two biomes, because you can see, the way they connect, and it's interesting. But you don't need to settle there to get iron and helium. Right, now, in terms of landing, now you may not have noticed this, and I'm going to use Pluto as this example. So, when you land, you'll get your landing area, and you'll have this little landing icon. So this one here with the little ship, that means I've landed. So for example, if you just put, let's say, landing area explored, right? Now the way the game works is it will generate your resource and your landing area when you land. It isn't obviously it doesn't have every single possible landing area available, and it will randomize it. So what I like to do is when I'm at a planet, the first thing I do is make sure there are no encounters. So I just wait in the system for a second, because if you just immediately open the planet window, you might get attacked the second you fly off. So just something to bear in mind. And then I'll do a main save. And then what I do is I will pick a place and I will land there and see what resources are available on land. And this is the other thing that you may not have noticed just by dint of accident or you just weren't looking, is your landing area seems to have the highest chance of having rare resources near you. It's almost like rolling a rare item, right? There's a chance, a good one in fact, that you will have one of these rare resources where you land. So what I do is I land, and all I'll do is immediately the second I get off the ship, I will open my scanner and I will select the outpost module. Not place it, but outpost module, and it will show you it will tell you exactly what resources you have in the vicinity. And you can kind of move, and I'll show you this in a sec, but you can then move your cursor around to just kind of check around the area. And the final thing is when you do it on your landing area, it will be flattened. Your landing area is always flattened, which for building a outpost easily is an absolute godsend. A lot of people, I've seen pictures of people's outposts, and what they've done is they've landed, gone exploring, found the perfect spot in terms of resources, but then it's this mountainous, rocky mess, which sometimes it looks cool and okay, having, an outpost on the edge of a cliff is quite neat, but often, especially when you're building a lot, it's just a little bit more easier and straightforward to have a flat area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate this. I'm obviously not going to show you every time, but I'm going to do a little bit of landing, and I'm going to find an area on Pluto which at least has titanium or tungsten. Incidentally, tungsten with the W letter always threw me aside. I was like, what? Why is it not T as well, or TU? Probably because that means something else. So let me find you a good spot and I'll show you what I mean. So in completely dumb luck, it was literally the first spot I landed. So as you can see, it's completely flat where I've landed. So if the resources are there, this would be an ideal place to settle. And would you know, I've got tungsten, titanium, lead, water. I have literally every resource available on this planet at this spot. Now that is hilariously lucky. My best planet, I think, has that many, but it was a planet with 5 potential resources. But for just my first spot is glorious. And what I can do is, you notice, you see it moves around. So for example, if you don't immediately have one of these rare resources available, just do this for a sec and have a little butchers around and check what you have available. Next you want to do is I like to place it kind of centralized. I like to kind of get an idea of, okay, so I don't want to go too far that way. So in essence, this won't have to do much shenanigans. I'm just going to literally place it here. And then I'm going to go, and I can see where the deposits are. So water, seems to be I can just do anywhere. Lead, okay, so lead is over there. Titanium is... oh, loads of it over here. And then tungsten just over there on the mountain. See, if I'd have settled a little bit further that way, I would have probably missed out on the tungsten. So this is an absolutely amazing place to set up shop. Obviously, because it doesn't have helium-3, what I would probably want to do is use a cargo link sending stuff, like a local system cargo link, sending stuff to somewhere that does have helium-3, but this is an ideal place to sell. So that was very lucky. So that's what you want to look out for. I know it's, for example, I had gotten really unlucky and hadn't paid attention to when I was settling, so I didn't realize that a lot of these rare resources were mineable. They are. A couple of things also to bear in mind is some resources are gas or don't have specific mining areas. So helium-3, notably, will often actually be a gas instead of something you mine out of the ground. So that's something to bear in mind, especially in, say, if there was an area with helium-3 and iron, the iron areas will often have it as a gas. So just experiment around, basically, on the planets. In terms of skills, the only one I would recommend doing is at least getting the first level of planetary habitation. The reason being is a lot of the planets will be deep freeze or inferno. The others, in terms of radiation and I think higher pressure or magnetism, not so much, but those two, just getting that at level 1 is ideal, because you'll often find, I think Pluto, for example, is a deep freeze planet, and unless I had that skill, I couldn't place my outpost here. So anyway, hope that gave you a little bit of a better understanding of exactly how to find decent resources, because again, I've been seeing people getting really confused, or like kind of maybe not looking for the right thing, and the backseat driver in me wants to kind of point it out to them. So this is my way of doing that. As always, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at norespawns. I've recently started a TikTok, which I'll link, which will be have a link in the description. If you use the platform, please follow me there if you're interested. I'll be posting a slightly more chill stuff there, so it'll be more kind of tours, work in progress kind of stuff, less formal videos than YouTube. And you guys enjoy the rest of your week. You take care.